Okay, so I would like to introduce Diane Dressler and Lauren Silverstone from Maryland Independent Housing. They are going to be talking about all of the rules and programs that are available to us.
Look, I'm gonna you're treat teaching me. You see that on a video?
Diane and Lauren, take it away.
Zoom.
All right, I'm going to share my screen because we have a PowerPoint that we're going to show folks. All right, can you see that slide?
Yep.
Excellent. All righty. So I'm Diane Dressler. I'm a consultant with Maryland Inclusive Housing and with a number of other organizations. And all of my work is really around affordable housing for people with disabilities in Maryland. So I'm happy to be able to join you today and tell you a little bit about Maryland Inclusive Housing and the resources that they have. One thing we wanted to make sure that we made clear to everyone at the beginning of this presentation is that Medicaid, so Medicaid waivers, et cetera, cannot pay for housing. Medicaid cannot pay for any room and board costs. That would include rent, utilities, food, all of those kinds of things. CMS will not allow DDA to have a waiver service that pays for those things. However, they do have other waiver services that we'll talk about during our presentation that can help people access housing. So let's continue. So as background for Maryland Inclusive Housing, it was started in 2020 after a DDA designed supported living committee made 3 different recommendations to DDA to help Marylanders with intellectual and developmental disabilities gain access to housing and have more opportunities for affordable and accessible housing. So MIH was formed as a result of that committee's activity because it was one of the recommendations. And that was to have an organization that would work on behalf of people with intellectual and developmental disabilities to provide housing support services, to have an information clearinghouse that would have housing information on it for people, and to provide housing support services, which is one of the things that MIH does. They also have housing committees in different counties around the state and will be forming more. So MIH has a board. You can see here the people that are on the MIH board, and it includes a variety of people that have both housing expertise, service expertise, advocacy skills, and we also have a representative that works for CMS. So that's an important piece that's included there. The leadership includes Tim Weems. He's the executive director. You may know him because he was executive director at Jubilee Association for many, many years. Lauren Silverstone, who will be talking to you in a little bit, and then Terry Bradford, who is an administrative assistant for MIH. This is the mission, and as I already mentioned, the goals are to create housing committees in regions or counties around the state, to employ community living coordinators who can help work as case managers, housing case managers, if you will, for people who need assistance with accessing housing and maintaining their housing, which is also important, and to have a clearinghouse. So their accomplishments to date are that 3 county committees have been established, one in Montgomery County, one in Baltimore City, and one in Howard County. My understanding is that they will establish 3 additional housing committees within the next few months, and will continue to grow that throughout the state. To employ community living coordinators, Lauren Silverstone was hired as the first community living specialist, and will be MIH will be hiring additional people ongoing, and then to have a clearinghouse. So I'm here to talk to you about the clearinghouse. This is the website the URL for the clearinghouse. I encourage you all to go and take a look at it. I'm going to walk you through what's available on there. And I think you'll really find much more information on there than I'm going to tell you about in the few minutes that I have to spend with you. So the homepage includes a form where you can sign up and get additional communications from NIH. If there's particularly relevant news, you can get information on that. If there's a housing committee in your area, you can get information on that, etc. There's a housing information page, and these are across the top of the website. There are different tabs. So there's housing information, and that includes information about housing, Medicaid, and Social Security. And what is the interaction between those three things, between housing, Medicaid benefits, and SSI in particular. There's a section called Thinking About Renting or Owning a Home, Learning About Renting or Owning a Home, then specifics for just renting or owning. There's a page on housing accessibility and how to think through accessibility needs, a page about services that might help someone be able to be more successful in renting their own place. Information about preparing to move, utilities, actually moving, and then there is information on all of the laws that protect people with disabilities in housing. There's also a housing services page, which Lauren will be telling you about, and it includes an application for services if anyone is interested in having a waiver service of housing support services that Lauren can provide. So the housing information page, which I'm highlighting here, as I said, includes information on the SSI rules related to housing, which involves something called presumed maximum value, so that if a family member contributes to rent or any other room and board costs for someone who's living in their own place, it has an impact on SSI. Not SSDI, but on SSI. So there's a lot of information about what that impact is and how that can be remedied. There's information on using ABLE accounts to help pay for housing and what the special rules are around using an ABLE account to do that, as well as some information about all of Maryland's Medicaid waivers and state plan services. The next tab under there is thinking about renting or owning a home. And some guided questions about, is the person ready to move? What are their concerns, and what are some things that can address common concerns about moving from one setting to another? There's information about how DDA support services can help somebody in their own home. There's a section addressing staffing concerns and making an informed choice about where someone wants to live and how to help a person make an informed choice. The next section is learning about renting or owning a home. And it includes information on what is a lease, what are community rules, how are they different from a lease, what's a security deposit, what's a landlord, what do they do, who fixes what am I responsible for as a tenant, what's the landlord responsible for. There are different types of rent subsidy programs that make rent affordable. Some of them allow people to move from one place to another with their rent subsidy, others do not. So it describes the difference between those things. And some of the other important community roles. And it also guides people through discussion about who they would like to live with. Do they need a living caregiver? Where do they want to live? Do they want to live near family? Do they want to live near transportation? Do they want to live near where they work? These are all decisions that people will need to make as they consider their housing. And what are their accessibility needs? And of course, what can they afford? The renting tab includes information on renting a home, options to make renting affordable. It talks about the different types of rent subsidy programs, provides specific information about different programs that people could apply for and what the eligibility criteria are for them. There's some guidance on finding affordable rental housing on websites that people can use to do that. Applying for housing, there's specific documentation that's needed. So this lets people know what kind of documentation they're going to have to provide. How to be successful as a tenant, how to handle any kind of issues that could arise during tenancy, and what's the lease renewal process. You know, how do you recertify for your subsidy? There's also a page on owning a home, and it gives information on you know, perhaps a person with a disability could apply for a special mortgage program themselves, or perhaps their home could be purchased by a special needs trust or by family. So there are websites and different information that are provided to help people think through those homeownership, different possible strategies, and then some information about being successful as a homeowner. There's a page on housing accessibility, and it provides information on certain standards for accessibility that may be in some apartment complexes, including Fair Housing Act accessibility standards, ADA standards, and something called Universal Federal Accessibility Standards, which is another level of accessibility standard. And if you don't know the difference between them, most people do not. So it's important to know the difference when you're looking for an accessible unit, and that information is there. There is some information on sensory accessibility and on finding funding options to pay for accessibility modifications if they're necessary. There's a section on services that can be provided in someone's new home in their apartment and planning ahead for what they need. We talk about the timing of services and signing a lease. That's often a difficult thing to manage because the services through DDA may not be approved and changed for someone's new setting at the same time that that lease needs to be signed. So there are some tips and strategies about how to handle that kind of thing. And of course, the housing support service provider can help with that as well. And again, some more information about live-in aids. I just moved myself in July, my daughter in July, and my son in September. So that's exactly how I feel. I'm covered in boxes. But anyway, moving is stressful. And so it talks about the expenses we need to consider, resources for basic household items, keys. You know, what would you do if you lost your keys? That's an important question. Who should you change your address with, setting up utilities, and very important is renter's insurance. There's a page on utilities and how to get signed up for utilities. Will there be a deposit? Do you need assistance with utility payments? If so, there are websites to organizations that will provide assistance to low-income households who need additional income to pay for their utilities. And also about, you know, how to contact the utility company, tell them you're moving, set up your account, and also getting your security deposit back, which is an important thing. And in Maryland now, security deposits do earn interest. They are in an interest-bearing account. And then, as I said, we talk about the laws that protect people with disabilities in housing, and they are listed here. Important to that is a discussion about reasonable accommodations and reasonable modifications that can be requested to help someone with a disability use and enjoy their housing, just like somebody who doesn't have a disability. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lauren, who's going to tell you about housing support services. And Lauren, I'll just change the slides as you need me to.
Great, thank you. Hello, my name is Lauren Silverstone. I am the Community Living Coordinator with Maryland Inclusive Housing. I'm here today to discuss housing support services as well as provide some housing resources for you. Okay, so housing support services is defined in the Community Pathways Waiver as time-limited supports to help participants navigate housing opportunities, address or overcome barriers to housing, and secure and retain their own home. So our services include housing information and assistance, housing transition services, and housing tenancy sustaining services. We help individuals understand their housing program rules and requirements and how they apply to the individual. We assist individuals to search for housing, apply for housing, and obtain documentation. Some of the primary documents individuals will need are their birth certificate, their ID, their social security card. They'll likely also need their benefits notice as proof of income. We will help assess the unit to determine if it meets the individual's accessibility needs. And if not, we can assist with the reasonable accommodation process. It's possible you may need something from the doctor in that process to affirm that they do need that modification, but we can certainly put you in the right direction for that. We can assist with identifying resources for one-time costs. We would want to review the lease and other documents, including community rules prior to lease signing to ensure the individual knows what they're signing. We would develop a monthly budget with the individual to ensure that all expenses are accounted for and paid for. We would identify and address barriers to housing, such as credit, rental history, or criminal background and behaviors, and maybe set up a plan or connect an individual with resources to overcome some of these barriers and assist with resolving any disputes that occur in this process. Okay, for housing transition services, we would meet with the individual, it may be virtually. We would conduct a tenant screening and housing assessment. We really want to get to know the individual, collect information on potential barriers to housing, and identify any potential housing retention challenges. We would develop an individualized housing plan that complements the person-centered plan. They will work together to meet the person's needs. We would identify their short and long-term goals, as well as strategies to address barriers, including prevention and early intervention services when housing is jeopardized, and also identify all the supports in that individual's lives. This may be family, friends, community providers, or their faith organizations. Yep. And we would also provide housing tenancy sustaining services. We would educate and train that individual on how to be a good tenant, their roles, the rights, the responsibilities of the tenant and the landlord, and how to comply with their lease. We would coach them to cultivate positive relationships with the people in their neighborhood and their landlord. There would typically be an annual recertification process for housing programs, as well as typically leases are for a year. So there would be the annual lease renewal. We can assist with that. Identify any behaviors that may jeopardize tenancy, assist with resolving any disputes that may arise with the landlord or the neighbors. Link with community resources to prevent eviction, and address that housing support plan, review it to make sure that it's still meeting the individual's needs, and make modifications as necessary. Okay, so one option for living independently is owning a home. And we want to know, does owning a home affect benefits such as Medicaid, SSI, or SSDI? And fortunately, the answer is no. And a paying roommate is allowed. However, we want to be careful with that. Make sure that they are not paying more than their fair share or their equal share of room and board, mortgage, utilities, or food, because that potentially could impact their benefits. And a home could be owned by the individual, a special needs trust, or even a family member. So a few home purchasing programs available here in Maryland. The first one is Home Ability. This assists home buyers with disabilities to finance their home purchase. Additionally, there is the Maryland Mortgage Program. This provides 30-year fixed rate home loans and down payment assistance to eligible home buyers purchasing in Maryland. So a family member may purchase a home. As Diane mentioned earlier, there is that presumed maximum value. So if you are helping your family member, it could reduce their SSI benefits check by about a third of their check. And this is how it looks. According to the Social Security Administration, suppose you live alone and your only income is SSI. You have a family member who generously pays your rent. However, Social Security Administration is going to count that as in-kind support and maintenance. So even if they're paying that $800 towards rent, they're going to limit how much they deduct from your income benefits. So they're going to take about a third off. So this kind of walks you through how that would look. Say the rate right now is typically $794, but if you are receiving that in-kind support and maintenance, that could bring you down to $529 a month, which will severely impact your ability to find an apartment. Okay, so another option to help a loved one purchase a home without jeopardizing their SSI benefits is what's referred to as a special needs trust. Now, this is something that would need to be set up with a lawyer who specializes in this area. We could assist you with resources to find a lawyer, but definitely this is something to speak about with a legal representative. This is not something MIH does, manage, but we can point you in the right direction of how to set this up. Another option are ABLE accounts. So this helps individuals with disabilities save money and pay for qualified disability-related expenses without jeopardizing their SSI or Medicaid. You can contribute to your loved one's ABLE account up to $15,000 per year. Or more, depending if the individual is working, and this will not affect their benefits. You can use these funds to help pay for housing costs. This could include rent, mortgage, property taxes, utilities, condo fees, home maintenance, and so on. So another option for living independently is renting a home. Home ownership is not everyone's first choice. If something breaks, you are responsible for it. And also maybe you just kind of don't want to live in one place for too long. That's okay. So one option for rental assistance is a tenant-based voucher. This is formerly Section 8. It's now the Housing Choice Voucher. An individual would apply through their local public housing authority. Well, it just depends where you'd like to live. You can apply to that authority. So this voucher is based on your income. So the tenant would pay 30% of their household income towards rent and utilities. They can apply for any apartment in the jurisdiction within the payment standards. Generally, it is 1 bedroom per individual. However, if someone, say, has a lot of durable medical equipment or they need a live-in aid, you can go through the reasonable accommodation process to request a second room, and your housing support provider can assist you with this process. Now, the main benefit of this, which is it's very flexible, if you're getting to the end of your lease term and you desire to move, this voucher goes with you. So you can take it to your next apartment. So this is an example of how this would work. Say an individual is receiving $783, they're living alone, they would pay about $235 towards rent and utilities. Now say they decide to get a roommate, which is great. That roommate also receives $783. So now the household income is $1,566. So they collectively would need to pay $470, since again, it's based on your household income. So anyone over, say, the age of 18 who has income, that would be counted. All right, so another option are project-based voucher programs. They are similar to how the tenant-based voucher works in terms of rental payments. However, the main difference is that instead of it being tied to you, as in you can move to any apartment you want with your voucher, it is tied to very specific units. Many of the public housing authorities own property, so that's often a way to get onto these project-based voucher lists is to still apply through your public housing authority. There are some other project rental assistance programs available. One is the Section 811 Project Rental Assistance Program. The eligibility criteria are listed here. There are a few things that would exclude individuals from being eligible. Criminal background issues that would include a lifetime sex offense registry, or the production of methamphetamines in a federally assisted property. You also would need to be between the ages of 18 to 62, a Medicaid recipient, and must have an extremely low income, which is considered at or below 30% of the area median income. Now, individuals who are transitioning from an institution to the community are on the priority list. Also, individuals who are receiving services in a DDA residential program, such as a group home or shared living, are also eligible for this program. Now, to apply, you would need your housing support services provider to help you apply for this program. If you do not have a housing support services provider, you can speak with your CCS or your coordinator of community services. Just let them know you'd like to add a housing goal in your person-centered plan, and they can help you choose a housing support services provider. The provider will then help you complete the pre-screening and the application in the social serve system. Another option are the Weinberg Apartments. Very similar eligibility criteria. And again, if you are interested, you would inform your housing support services provider. Now, they do have apartments throughout the state of Maryland. However, they are not currently in every single county. So if you have questions about if there's an apartment available in the jurisdiction you're interested in, you can definitely ask me about that or your chosen housing support services provider, and we can see if there's one in the area that you're interested in. Okay, another option for affordable living. Now, this is not a voucher. These are buildings that receive government funding to make these buildings more affordable. So they are typically apartments. They can be rented by individuals with income that's between 30 and 60% of area median income. So depending on your income and other resources, you may be able to afford one of these apartments without a subsidy. Now, for these, you can apply directly to the apartments for this. You do not have to go through the Public Housing Authority. I will say some of these buildings do have quite extensive wait lists. So if you see one you're interested in, go ahead and apply, get on that wait list. All right, so I've included some resources here, and we can definitely share this presentation with you. The first is a list of the public housing authorities here in Maryland. So if there's a jurisdiction you're interested in living in, please go to this website and you can apply right online for most of these. I will say, unfortunately, some of these housing authorities, their wait lists are closed, and we do not know when they'll be opening up, but I do keep an eye on it. So if there is an area you're interested in applying, please let me know. I'd be happy to give you an update once it reopens. I've also included the links for the Section 811 Project Rental Assistance and Weinberg Apartments. But again, if you're interested in those opportunities, those programs, please let your housing support services provider know so we can assist you. There is also some resources here for affordable housing. So you can click on these, generally put in the area you're interested in. Some of them let you filter by, say, price. You can see if they're income-based. So these are really helpful resources for identifying affordable housing. And finally, here is my contact information, as well as a link to our website. If you're interested in speaking with me, if you have any questions or concerns, you can either call me, email me, or even just go on our website and just fill out the information for need housing information. I'd be happy to give you a call to discuss your housing needs.
That's great, Lauren. One thing I wanted to add, when you were talking about the voucher wait lists that are closed, if people sign up and indicate an interest in a particular jurisdiction, and we find out that the wait list opens, we will notify people who are signed up with an interest in that jurisdiction. So that's at least one good reason to sign up and get information from Maryland Inclusive Housing.
Absolutely. Thank you for that plug. Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Actually, I think we've lost Meg, or who is running the program. Hoping she's still on.
Oh, I'm here.
Oh, not Meg. I'm sorry.
Oh,
Ginger.
Ginger?
Yeah.
Well, that's distressing.
I'm
I
gonna.
see. Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I see a few questions in the chat. Would you like to open it up for questions now or hold that off for later?
Great. Yes.
Okay, so the first one says, how is MIH reimbursed for its services to DDA self-directed participants? So for any individuals who are receiving DDA services, we would ask to be placed on the person-centered plan as your provider for housing support services, or whichever provider you choose, it would be the same way. So we are a DDA funded provider. Let's see. The second question I see, how do people who want assistance from MIH sign up? Is there a waiting list? No, there is no waiting list for us. So either, feel free to shoot me an email or give me a call, or again, you can sign up on our website. I'd be happy to speak with you. Next question. Can you discuss waiting lists in various counties for housing vouchers? So that is only a little difficult to determine because different areas have different priorities. For instance, if an individual is, say, at risk of homelessness, they're going to be a much higher priority than, say, someone who's living at home. So it could be honestly years. It just really depends on what's going on in that county. So no, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I can't give a very definitive time frame.
Lauren, let me add just a little bit to that.
Sure.
There are some counties who have an open wait list. That includes Montgomery County and Anne Arundel County. I believe St. Mary's County is open, and Calvert and Frederick City. So again, wait lists open and close at different times. We'll try to keep that information current on the MIH website. For those interested in Prince George's County or Baltimore County or Baltimore City, other large population areas in the state, they are all closed. And we do not know when they might be opening up again.
Yep, and just to add on that, Charles County just opened up today, and I believe they're only going to be open for a week. So if anyone's interested in Charles County, please get on there within the next few days.
Thank you.
Let's see. So I did that. If an individual has the housing support services service approved in their person-centered plan, how time limited is it? It's just as long as the individual needs. If say you set a goal for a year, but something occurs and we can't get that individual, moved within a year due to various issues, we can continue providing housing support services. It really just depends on what the individual needs. Let's see. Can someone who lives in Baltimore County apply for a voucher in Montgomery County? Yes, absolutely. I will say, I believe with Montgomery County, they do prioritize people who already either live in Montgomery County or work in Montgomery County, but you can absolutely apply to a voucher even if you live in a different county.
Let me add a little bit to that. As far as I know, all of the housing authorities in Maryland have what we call a live-work preference. So they all will issue a voucher to someone who lives or works in that jurisdiction before they would issue a voucher to someone who does not. So certainly getting on the wait list for the area where you're living or working is going to be easier than getting a voucher in another area. But as Lauren said, you could absolutely get on the wait list.
Yep, and the next question, do you provide services in Queen Anne County? We absolutely do. We cover the entire state of Maryland. And I will say, because of that, most of our meetings will probably be virtual, but we would be happy to work with anyone in Queen Anne County. Next question, how do we sign up for Charles County? So that will be on the Charles County Public Authority housing website. If you need help finding that, I'm gonna put my email in the chat. And if you have any trouble finding it, let me know. Just shoot me an email and I'll send you the link. I do have that. And actually in the presentation where I listed the Public Housing Authority, if you take that link, that should show you all the public housing authorities as well. All right. Can you talk more about Weinberg Apartments? What are they? What makes them different? They are apartments that are specifically subsidized for individuals with disabilities.
Where are they located?
Yep, I can tell you all the locations. Just give me one moment. Look at my little cheat sheet for that. Okay. So it says, as of February 2020, there are 27 Weinberg apartments built and occupied, and they're leasing in the following counties: Dorchester, Hartford, Montgomery, Prince George's, Somerset, and Wacomico. An additional 6 units are under construction or in the pipeline for construction in Anne Arundel, Baltimore, Howard counties, and Baltimore City. And I can put a link to what I was just talking about at Weinberg. It also gives more information about that program right here in the chat. So 1 second. Okay. How can overnight staff be paid for under self-directed services? So any staffing and any services is going to go on that person-centered plan. That is the way to get everything paid. We're just going to request for that assistance.
Lauren, I know some families who have done it this way. The live-in aide lives in the apartment and gets free room and board, and is, responsible for responding to any kind of, overnight emergencies. Then they're usually paid to help in the morning to get the person ready for the day, help them get ready for the day and off to wherever they're going. And then again in the evening to help with whatever evening activities there might be and, getting ready for bed, those kinds of things. So I know some families have managed it that way in their self-directed services budget.
Great. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I had a question about the Weinberg Apartments in Wacomico. Where are they located? Do you know?
They're in Salisbury, as my understanding.
Yeah, but I was wondering where in Salisbury, because
Gotcha. I'm trying to think of the name of the apartment complex.
Because I know there's an apartment complex called River Edge, and they offer disability housing, but I wasn't sure if it was the same, if it was the same thing or if it was different.
There are 811 HUD 811 apartments at River's Edge, which is, by the way, a gorgeous place.
Mm-hmm.
There are also 811 units in Somerset County and Queen Anne's at might be Reserves at Somerset is the name of the property. And there are some in the Easton area, Cambridge, I'm sorry, called Galloway Meadows. And then the ones in Salisbury, it's escaping my mind. But I could look it up and try to get that information to you.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
I see there's a question about common problems, and there was also a question about success stories. So, Lauren, do you have a success story that you could share?
Sure. So I will, before getting into that, I will also state we are a fairly new organization. We just opened up in March. So we are still in the process of getting folks housed. I do have someone, we just started speaking this summer about her interest in moving into a unit. And I had signed her up through the Social Serve website for the Section 811. And she's already been offered a few apartments just through that waiting list. I will say she was higher up on the priority due to her current living situation. But we do have someone just after, say, 2 months of applying for an apartment, she's already in the process of about to move into independent living. I do have another individual who just got a housing voucher. So right now we're in the search process of finding the best option for him. So yeah, those are what I have so far.
I'll tell a little story about a lady that I worked with who got a housing choice voucher in Baltimore County after having been on the wait list for probably 8 years. Her mom had forgotten she put her on the wait list, and this letter comes saying you have an opportunity to apply. So that was kind of surprising to the family. But they were able to work things out, got an apartment that was within the voucher payment standard, right in the area where the family wanted her to live, where she wanted to live. After she moved in, there was really very significant growth, both in her ability to independently take care of her self-care skills, but also in her language. Her expressive language really sort of took off and exploded. So that was wonderful for everyone, including the family, to see. And the PS on that story is that she ended up purchasing a home, a condo in the same building. So now she's a homeowner in the same building where she had been renting. So that's sort of the whole progression of possibilities.
That's wonderful.
I have a question. Ms. Dressler, years ago, I sat in on one of your meetings through Baltimore County, and you had talked about a special mortgage that was available with like a longer payment period and a lesser interest rate. Does that still exist? Is it worth doing? I don't know what all the ins and outs are for that.
It still exists. Lauren mentioned it. It's called Home Ability. They changed the name of it. So at the Department of Housing and Community Development, it is still the best mortgage product out there for a person with a disability. They no longer have the 40-year amortization period. It's now 30 years, like most mortgages are. But the interest rate continues to be lower than usual. The down payment requirement is still $500, and it can be gifted. The closing costs, which are under $2,000, can be rolled into the mortgage, and it's being administered sort of in collaboration with the Maryland mortgage program, so that they are giving people those first-time homeowner down payment assistance benefits that the Maryland mortgage program would provide. People do need to have housing counseling, which I highly recommend. It's free. It's available throughout the state. It's mostly being done virtually now, and it really walks people through the process of purchasing a home for the first time. I wish I had done it the first time I bought a home, because I had no idea what I was doing. I was signing papers and just feeling nauseous, actually. But so that's a good thing. And the link for the Home Ability program is on the MIH website. So you'll be able to find that there.
And does that still go by, if it's in my daughter's name, does it still go, like the mortgage and income go by the people that live with her? Like if I were to do this, my son said that he would, when he moves out, he would actually have my daughter with him. We would still have caregivers, but she would still be living with him, even though I guess the mortgage would be in her name.
Right, yeah, the mortgage would be in her name, or it can be in the name of a family member who is the full-time caregiver of a person with a disability, whether they're a child or an adult.
Well, he wouldn't be the caregiver. She would be living, or he would be living with her, But we would have caregivers through her self-directed budget actually take care of her, although if that would be the arrangement, I guess he agreed to like supervise overnight.
Right, yeah, I'm not, I would assume that they would count your son's income as well as your daughter's. She would
Mhm.
definitely be the mortgage holder.
Mhm.
But because he's living there, I would assume they would, but I am not sure. So please check with the program
Yeah,
to find out the ins and outs about that.
okay.
And I do see a question in the chat. Are there any programs that do not have a waiting list that are specific for individuals with disabilities? If so, are they by county too or statewide? Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any housing program that doesn't have at least some sort of wait list.
I'm not either. Unfortunately, really nationwide, there's a great shortage of housing, particularly for people with low income and extremely low income. So that's why those wait lists are there. You know, as that changes and if there is additional funding coming from the federal government for more housing resources as it's being discussed, we will certainly be able to let people know on the website. We have a news section on the website, the MIH website that provides information on all kinds of different programs that people might benefit from. So if there are changes in rent subsidy availability, we'll let people know. Just last week, I think MIH put some information on the website about the emergency broadband program that will provide up to $50 for a person who is low income for either their cell phone or their internet service at their home, one or the other. And the application process is very easy. I've helped people apply for that. And now they're getting the benefit of that $50 payment on their cell phone or their internet. So that's very important. I think there was also a question about whether we would share the PowerPoint. And yes, we can do that. I'll send it out.
Right, the poll?
Yeah, Diane, this is Patty, would you mind stopping screen share so folks can see each other?
Sure.
Thank you. Of course, not many people have their pictures on.
Would you like me to launch the poll?
I would like to ask people something first. This is Patty. You know, looking at some of the names of folks out there, I can see people I know that have some housing situations already. If there's anybody that would like to make a comment, and that's not necessarily a question for the presenters, but is there anybody that has some tips or some pros, cons, anything they'd like to say? Maybe yes and maybe no, but this is a chance.
Patty.
Yes, hi. Hi, Jane.
Hi, it's Jane Applegate. We did apply for some housing, I guess previously the Section 8 housing for our son in a county we do not live in. And when we began the process, they told us he did not need to live in that county. And it actually was moving very quickly. We were getting very excited. And when we got to a certain point in the process, we were told differently that he either had to live or work in the county before, and he couldn't even apply if he didn't. After having been told originally by the first person I spoke with that we could apply. So, you know, was I told wrong by that second person? This is Carroll County, by the way.
Carroll County.
Howard.
I have a live work preference. You know, sometimes they will open up their wait list to people who do not live in the jurisdiction if they have special types of vouchers that are just for a particular population, and they don't have enough people on their wait list to to issue those vouchers to. So for example, there's something called a mainstream voucher.
Mhm.
It's a voucher for a person with a disability. And you have to, HUD did a prioritization with the housing authorities when they applied for new mainstream vouchers, if that they would get vouchers if they prioritize particular populations of people with disabilities, specifically if someone was in an institution or at risk of institutionalization or homeless or at risk of homelessness. And Howard County did not have enough people on their wait list who met the qualifications for those vouchers. So they opened their wait list up to people from other counties who would meet those criteria. So sometimes there are special situations.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Sherry. Yes.
Okay, Liz,
Yes.
Kathleen, I think you might be unmuted.
I have a question. Every now and then I get information from Baltimore County for Section 8 about renewing or saying I'm still interested. We filled it out. The last time I had an issue and it didn't look like it went through, I did call and they said they did get it, but they don't send you authorization or information that they got it until they actually review it. But the woman said at the time that they were working on 2017 applications. Now, of course, it's 2021, but they also said that they don't have Heather's application until 2015. And I know we've been on the application on the list for way before then. So who do I talk to or send copies of my original papers when I filled it out? Will it make a difference even now? Would she be bumped up further?
If they said they were working on 2017 and your daughter's application was 2015, they should have
It was
notified
way
her.
before 2015. See, we put it on the list, which we added her on the list. I believe she was 19 years old. She's now 30.
Gotcha.
So I know it was years before that.
So you talked with one of the voucher specialists
Yeah.
at Baltimore, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me send the name of somebody else that you could contact there and but I want to send it to you separately.
Right.
How can I do that? Patty, send it to you, send it to Ginger. Ginger, okay. Helene, I'll send that
Okay.
contact information to Ginger and
Great.
I'm sure she'll be able to help you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure.
So Diane, this is Meg Carter. I'm curious, so MIH can help people with housing questions, and it seems really important for some people to have support with this. Are there other organizations that do it as well in Maryland?
Yes. We recently held a class, a month long, well, one day a week for a month, a class to train housing support service providers. The curriculum was approved by DDA, and there are 11 different agencies who have staff who successfully completed that training. So MIH will be listing those agencies on their website. I didn't see them there yesterday, Lauren, but I think the update's coming. So, so there are a number of different agencies that would now be qualified, have been approved to do that service by DDA, have staff who have been trained, successfully completed that can do billing to Medicaid for providing this service.
Thank you.
Okay. Right now, I just want to jump in and first of all, thank Diane and Lauren for a great presentation. Thank everybody who's come. We have a few surveys, just 3 surveys real quick. I'm going to launch them now. If you guys wouldn't mind helping us out and giving us the answers, I'll move on to the next one as soon as this one seems pretty full. So the first is demographics. Who are you? All right, looks like everybody's doing a great job. And we'll move on to the next one, which is housing status. All right, if everybody's done answering that. Nope, we're getting up there. Thank you for participating in that. And I'll launch the next one. Which is payment for housing. That's good. Great. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, who's up next?
Yeah, I guess our last opportunity for anyone to make any comments or, have any questions and let us, oh, I'm sorry, Liz, were you done?
Yeah, I'm done. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought so.
Technical difficulties.
I thought so. I can only comment and then I hope somebody else will as well. But, I have worked for so many people who self-direct their services and I've seen so many arrangements, many people with a housing voucher, excuse me, in an apartment near their family or independently, not with family at all. Families building in-law apartments within their family home. People having a condo that someone has purchased and they have a live-in caregiver. So people are getting creative with the resources they have. And, many individuals without family living in apartments that are voucher or living in one of the Weinberg apartments successfully. So, it may take some work to get there, but, I've seen a lot of my customers be successful.
I'm going to follow up with a question, and I don't have the answer. I know that people can use funds from their DDA plan to modify their homes, to modify homes. Would someone, say a family chose to put an in-law suite in their home that would provide some separation, and some more independence, but not complete separation? Could they, have you known of people who've used DDA funding to do that?
I don't. I know that some of the rules around the home modification waiver service are that you can't add square footage.
Okay.
So if it doesn't add square footage, maybe it's possible. I'd certainly talk to the regional office and see what they had to say about it. But yeah.
Okay, so you could modify a bathroom to make it more accessible, or maybe put a
Oh,
door.
yes,
Yeah, that kind of stuff to give someone some privacy.
absolutely.
And there's also a home modification benefit within CFC that many of my customers have utilized. You know, they're all going to have their criteria and limits. I think that CFC one, isn't that a $15,000 and can't go beyond the footprint of the house as well?
Right.
Yes. And that's $15,000 every 3 years.
Yeah, so there's worth exploring.
Mhm. And there are some other programs that do also provide modifications if necessary.
Awesome.
And information about those programs is on the MAH website. It is, and links to the program. So I would encourage you to look there.
Okay, great. Any other questions? I think there's some in the chat, or should we? I'm not.
I have a question, just out of curiosity. Your fee, do you have like a standard set fee per client or per hour? If, you know, we were to use one of these agencies?
Well, for MIH, like I'd mentioned earlier, we would just request to be placed on the person-centered plan as the housing support services provider. Right now, we typically request about 28 hours per year. Aside from that, we're not asking for any sort of fee or any sort of funds, you know, directly from individuals. And even if there's an individual, you know, who's not receiving any DDA services, we're also happy to just, you know, provide information and resources to them, you know, with no fee associated.
But does your fee still come out of the self-directed service budget?
Yes.
So that's what I was trying to figure out.
Yes. So if we're on, you know, the person-centered plan, we would request, you know, part of that budget be allocated towards housing.
Right. So I'm trying to figure out what your average hourly rate is.
It's usually about $58 an hour.
58 an hour?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't think that's a big concern, because you'd be adding that as a service.
Yes.
So it would it'd be a new service, so it probably would be automatically, you know, rolled into the plan. At least that's what I've seen. That's new, but that's what I've seen lately. I mean, that's just my personal opinion, that funding it is probably not going to take away from other services.
Mm-hmm. I just didn't know what the average was, to know if it's, you know, several thousand or thousands and thousands. So that's what I was trying to figure out.
So what are the most common problems that people run into? Is it just simply the encountering the wait list and finding a place?
Yes, wait lists being closed, even for, say, low income tax credit buildings. For some folks, you know, with each program, they do check, you know, your credit history when you're applying for housing. So I have connected people with, you know, nonprofit free counseling services. They can help you repair that. But those are the main barriers I've encountered.
Can I ask a question? Is loneliness a problem at all?
Sorry, you said loneliness?
Yeah, once they're all set up.
I mean, I think that varies from person to person. You know, if someone's lived with their family their whole life, yeah, they could be a little lonely. And that's kind of part of why we discuss, you know, what supports they have. You know, if they're very into their faith, maybe they go to, you know, services once a week, twice a week, or get them engaged, and maybe they want to go to a day program or employment services. So we definitely do not want to isolate people. We want to integrate people, you know, into the greater community. So definitely trying to establish those relationships and just find out what the person likes to do. Maybe just help them find a club they like. So yes, absolutely. That's a huge concern.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There's a question in the chat. How can overnight staff be paid for under self-directed services? I think, is there someone who can answer that from SDAN?
I'll take it if you want me to.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
So currently in the current community pathways waiver, overnight support services are not a service that is a waiver service. We're in negotiations with DDA and have been about them adding that service, because you all have told us and all of SDAN members have told us that it's a needed service, and DDA understands that it's a needed service. And we'll look at remedying that situation in the next waiver. Currently, many individuals have lobbied for, with the regional office, that there is a true health and safety risk to the individual, and that overnight supports must be funded now, and there's no time to wait. And most regions have actually approved some of those overnight services under state-only money, and not because it's not a waiver service. So if that pertains to you, you should be lobbying your CCS, getting in touch with SDAN, and we can help you figure out how you go about that in the current situation. But long-term, we're working with DDA to hopefully get a long-term solution to the need for awake overnight staff.
One of the things I would encourage people to do is to make sure that the goal of moving to your own home is documented in that person-centered plan. Make sure that that is part of the plan. The documentation can't hurt and will probably help.
Right. And we have also advised people to make sure that you are documenting in your person-centered plan the need that exists for overnight. The need exists even if family is gratuitously providing that support now. So getting the need documented that for overnight support services is crucial to have in your plan, regardless of whether family is providing it just out the goodness of their heart, or there is a paid staff doing it. So don't let anybody dissuade you from documenting the need just because it's being met by someone who's not getting paid.
And I don't know if this is a good question or not, but if a family has a family home and they're considering putting it in a trust so that their loved one will have the use of that family when they're not around anymore, is that something you should work out with a lawyer? How do people locate, lawyers who specialize in trusts, in special needs trusts?
Yes, absolutely. That should go through a lawyer, because again, there are lawyers that specialize in that. We can absolutely, if someone needs help with that, we can help provide resources for lawyers that do specialize in that.
Okay.
And, in the chat there, several people are asking, I'm not sure if you, I'm sure you can comment, but I know it's not your, basically your, anything you have control of. If like how long people are on the Section 8 wait list, and how often you have to renew them. Like, once you're on, I think it's a year, but I don't know for sure. In general, they may be all different. If you wouldn't mind commenting. Lauren.
If you, I usually tell people, if you've seen one housing authority, you've seen one housing authority, right? They're all different. So Montgomery County Housing Opportunities Commission, HOC, you have to renew your interest every year. In Anne Arundel County, they are also doing their wait list in the same way. I suspect other counties will follow suit. One of the struggles that housing authorities have, as you can imagine, is a stale wait list. That if somebody's been on a wait list since 2012, they may not even live in Maryland anymore. They might not be alive anymore. So, having those stale wait lists is a big problem for the housing authorities that go into this annual renewed interest system. But they're not all there.
If a family purchases a home for their child, can they be reimbursed at least for some of the rent, like through a voucher or something like that, or not?
So I think that the question, I'll rephrase it and you tell me if I have it right, okay? If your loved one got a Section 8 voucher, would they be able to rent your home using that voucher? Right?
Right.
It is possible. Many housing authorities kind of frown on somebody using their voucher in the family home because, as you can imagine, there's been abuse with that
Right.
kind of thing in the past. However,
I'm thinking of a separately purchased home, like, you know, the family lives in one home and then they purchase, and I know of several people who've done this. You know, they purchase another home specifically for that person. So, so go ahead.
yes, no, and you make that case. If there's a little bit of pushback from the housing authority, you make the case that this particular home that was purchased for the son or daughter meets their needs in some special way. It's close to work, it's close to family, it's close to supports, whatever makes that setting be the right setting for the person. And then you make that case. I haven't had them push back very hard. It's sometimes you have to do a reasonable accommodation request. But again, you need to make the case for why is this a disability related need to rent in that particular place. Now, of course, the rent has to be within the payment standard.
Right.
Sometimes they want to see whether the family has rented the place before. Is there a rental history on it? But again, you can overcome that with a reasonable accommodation.
But you have to have the voucher.
Well, right. First, get the voucher.
You're
Liz,
muted, Liz.
Oops. One other chat question I just wanted to answer was some asking where you'll be able to get the PowerPoint presentation as well as a recording. We're going to post that on the SDAN website. So that'll be available to participants in the future. Okay. Does anybody else have any questions? Other questions? All right. We've lost our leader, so.
Oh, I'm, you know, I'll always jump in, right?
Yeah, you've got a lot more experience than I do. I have none.
So thank you, Diane and Lauren. And you know, I've learned a lot, and I think, you know, we need to actually, as SDAN, promote that people use this waiver service and and tap into your website and be in touch with Lauren. And you know, really brought it forward on my thinking. And I'm thinking of all the customers that I work for who could really benefit. And I guess it's such a new service, a waiver service, that none of us are really conscious of it. So I think we just need to continue to promote it as you know, something people would actually put into their person-centered plan should they be considering housing, and at the very least be tapping into your website. So you know, it's really been good to hear your explanations and know that you know, people can put a face with a name. And and for participants, thank you for coming. And if you have any specific questions, you can email them to SDAN, and we can help you try to get you connected to who you need to be. And then visit the SDAN website for any other resources that we have listed there. So thank you all. I think that we're done, unless anybody else has one last question they need to get out.
Nope, just want to thank everyone for your time today, and feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
I have something to say since Meg hasn't. On October 7th, we're having a world premiere. World premiere of a staff recruitment video that we hope will help you be able to recruit staff, but also to train them what it is to work with someone in self-direction and all the possibilities that career opens up for people. So Meg, it's October 7th, right?
October 7th at 3 p.m.
3 p.m. So if you haven't already gotten, that notice hasn't gone out yet, right, Meg, or has it?
SDAN sent out the notice once, and then we think both FMSs will be sending it out generally next week. I know our Central Chesapeake will. And I don't know if Matt Source has, but I think they're certainly willing to. So we're excited because we think it'll, we'll draw in some
I'd
new
like that.
people.
Great, and so if you're not already on the SDAN website, by signing into this webinar, you will be at it. And but we don't email a lot, and what we email is pretty important most of the time. And we're also always looking for donations because we're all volunteers. So thank you all for coming.
Bye. Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.
Bye, thank
Okay.
you.
Okay, bye.
Okay. Hopefully I got all the SDAN people in one room.
Usually we just have to wait till folks actually sign out.
Oh, okay. Meg told me to make a room. So.
Oh, good. Okay.
I actually have to go now because I need to run a couple errands, but
Okay.
Thanks, Sonny. Thanks a lot.
thank you.
Thank you,
Bye,
Sunny.
Sunny.
Thank you.
All right. I don't think I did that right anyways. Thanks for bearing with me.
You did great. You did
Yeah,
absolutely.
we should have introduced you, Liz, as a new board member, but I'm going to
Oh,
do
yeah.
that. We'll do that
All
at
of
the
us.
October meeting. Okay, we'll make sure
They
we
don't
get you
know us.
introduced.
We should
What's that?
I said we should probably always introduce all of us because they don't know who we are.
Right, right.
But I don't care.
Well, we lost our host. Right, so
Right.
that would have been.
Liz, you did great. You just picked up the pieces, girl. So that was great. So
Thank you.
A lot of poise.
But I guess that Ginger can't get back in without killing them.
Well, so are we going to join? Are we going to go to room 1? I just got the
Yeah, that
join.
sounds good.
Yeah,
Let's do
let's,
that.
Good.
I didn't get a room 1, did you?
Yeah, you need to go to moot room. I'll send you there. I've never done this before either. So.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, that just puts